Oh hey, I'm glad you're here. It's official. We are hard at work outlining Season 9 of VHUs. We will have 8 episodes with 8 different guests with 8 different professions talking about 8 films. I have to be honest, I am really excited for this season. Although, last season? Come on. We had a lawyer, a bookstore buyer, a museum director, a Muay Thai fighter, a writer, a child, a horror food artist, and a college professor. It's pretty amazing. Plus, this season, Sarah Marshall will co-host, and for this episode, Sarah and I discuss the second half of the month's films, and more, that we watched in October. It's mostly spoiler-free, and it's intended as a list, too. Hopefully encourage you to mostly watch these films now, or save them for next October. And please tell me what you watched and or enjoyed. You can find us at VHUs_podcast. That's VHUS_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. So, this episode, I'm joined by Sarah Marshall. The films are What We Watched in October Part 2. And this is VHS Presents New Releases and Late Returns. Hello and welcome to VHS Presents New Releases and Late Returns, our October recap, Part 2. Joining me is Sarah Marshall. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Ready for the big question?
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, thanks. You get me every time.
Yes.
We spent all day together. You know how I am.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's my birthday in a couple of hours.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
So I ate some cake with you guys today, and great day.
Awesome. This is a big week for us because it's your birthday and our daughter's birthday.
Yeah.
Same week. So a lot of excitement around here.
So we have my birthday, and then Adeline calls it a regular boring day or a recovery day,
Yes.
and then we have her birthday. So, yeah, we've got it jam-packed in there.
I love it. It's a good week.
Yeah.
And it rolls us right into holiday movie time, which is a very drastic change from what we just did in October.
Right. And we go from being full up with all horror. We don't do anything else. We don't watch anything else. You are not having anything else.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, we did add a couple things
This is
this
the
year.
only year we've ever done that. And I was shocked
This is
that
true.
you let it happen.
Well, I mean, we also had some wonderful social visits. I barely made it to 31 and 31, as opposed to previous years when I was right around 55 to 65, somewhere in there.
You would just pack it in before.
Yeah. But I also feel like this year was maybe easier on you than previous years.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? We had more hits with you than misses?
I think so. I would say maybe quality over quantity on this.
Okay.
I was into a lot of the things that we watched.
Great. I'm very excited. I guess we should just get right into it because there's so much to talk about.
Let's do it.
Okay. First up, we watched 3 series. First one is Horror, Midnight Mass, directed by Mike Flanagan, who did Gerald's Game, which you loved up till the end. He's done a bunch of other things. We're aware of what they are. For anyone that doesn't know, it follows a small town and a new preacher, and it's on Netflix. It's like 7 episodes. Did you enjoy it?
I really did. I love an evil preacher.
Okay. Spoilers.
I mean, you know that when you just look at the cover. It's
Yeah.
his face.
Yeah.
He's evil, right?
Yeah.
I didn't ruin anything.
No, I don't think so.
You get it right when he comes into the frame.
Yeah. Also, with this episode, if you hear a movie and you don't know what it is, you can just skip ahead. Because chances are I'm going to say something that's going to reveal something about the film.
Our goal is not to ruin your day.
Right.
Put it on pause and come back.
Yeah. Or just write the name down. You will have forgot by next October, and then watch the movie then.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun with this series. You know, I don't mind if things start out slow. Sometimes people don't like that. I was totally cool with it. I like character development.
Mm-hmm.
I like figuring out what normal life is like before it gets all messed up. So I was into it. I thought it was fun.
I totally agree. It was a little rough for me the first 3-ish episodes because it's so
it really
churchy.
seems like you're just going to church in a small town.
Yeah, at one point I think you
not
even
your
asked me,
jam.
like, why are you watching this?
Oh, well, first of all, you hate when people sing anything.
Yeah.
And in this particular series, it's a lot of church hymns. And so
it's a lot for me.
I was kind of fine with it. I'm just like,
Sure.
okay. But I was surprised that you hung on through the
I
beginning.
kind of personally I get the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
Yeah.
So when things start to turn in this series, I was like, oh, I'm so comfortable.
Yeah, finally. And the pastor, his name is...
Oh, I did not even write that down.
Hamish?
So, yes.
Yeah, he was so good. He was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Kate Siegel.
Yes.
She is great. And I really feel like she's been in a lot of stuff lately, and she's very good at being like, she could be our new horror queen, because her eyes get so big that it's like anytime anything scary or intense is happening, you really feel it, because you don't even have to think about what's happening, because you just see it in her like horror eyes, so she was really like probably my favorite part about the film.
Yeah, that's the great point. Is I think the writing, Mike Flanagan loves to write these monologues, but the difference is I don't hear his voice, whereas some directors you're writing and you're like, we get it, you like to hear yourself talk. I think he writes great monologues for these characters.
And they're all so good.
Yeah, they're so good. They further the story, they deepen the character. It's something I kept hearing people talk about, and I'm like, well, yeah, without all of that, it could be a 90-minute movie, but it wouldn't be very good.
Yeah. And then see, once you know the characters, because of all the development in the beginning, then when they deliver it, it gives them a chance through these monologues to just give the most perfectly acted performance. I enjoyed that a lot.
So that's a recommendation. That's on Netflix. Next up is something very horrific. It's LuLaRich on Amazon Prime. It's a billion-dollar clothing company is accused of misleading thousands of women.
True horror.
Yeah, this is one you found. I knew nothing about this.
I did. I think it just came up probably because we watched different documentaries or whatever. You had gone to bed and I started watching it. And after like 5 minutes, I stopped it because I was like, oh, Dirk is going to want to watch this with me. So we started it again. It's a pyramid scheme movie. And I think that, when I say that it's true horror, I really think that when you're fully taking advantage of people 100%. And changing their lives and ruining it, I think people should watch it and hopefully don't get involved in any of these kinds of businesses or things, because there's a lot of them and they're always out there, and I feel like they're always out there targeting women and especially stay-at-home moms. And in this particular one, it's a lot of Mormon women, but I think that happens often. And I want people to be aware that this goes on out there, and that if somebody's asking you for a lot of money to start a business, it's probably not a good business for you.
I agree. It just seems so evil to prey upon people who they're in lots of these instances stay-at-home moms, and they see these people looking beautiful on their Instagram, and they're like, look what I can do by selling this item. It doesn't even have to be LuLaRoe.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of things out there.
So many. And people just get wrapped up in it, and they're like, look, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the same thing this successful person's doing. And it just ruins lives, and it's a real bummer.
Totally.
But the series is fascinating.
It's fascinating, and we spent a whole evening looking up images of
oh my gosh
of the legging mishaps that make it
I have looked at it so much. You do yourself a favor, go to Google and look up LuLaRoe's pattern mistakes.
Yeah.
Or cringeworthy patterns. LuLaRoe's will bring up a bunch of different ones.
So good.
You're welcome.
We spent a whole evening looking and laughing.
And I've been back to it. I haven't stopped. And the last series we watched was The Way Down, which is a Christian cult based on weight loss, which is another one. Stephanie Crawford, a guest previously on the podcast, she had mentioned it. And I thought, that sounds good. We enjoy a good culty one. And even when someone tells you how the series ends, you're like, well, no, that can't. When it starts, you're like, that's not how it wraps up. And it's pretty wild.
I would recommend watching it for sure. And sucked in, I think we watched it in a day or two.
Yeah, you'll start it, and I guarantee you're not ready for this woman's hair.
Yeah. And it just keeps getting more and more wild.
And you're just like, what is that? Does the hair have its own storyline?
So, well, and we had watched so many horror movies in the month that I was like, something is definitely growing on her head and in her hair.
Yeah.
That is a person. It wasn't, though. It's just weirdo hair.
That is wild. And I believe it's either Amazon or HBO Max. I didn't write that one down. But yeah, sorry, people. You'll have to look up The Way Down.
Yeah, it's easy to find.
W-A-Y. Whew. All right, that brings us into the movies.
Let's do it.
Okay, first up is Malignant from 2021. This is directed by James Wan. A woman's torment worsens as she discovers her waking dreams are terrifying realities. Now, a lot of people liked this movie.
But you, clearly, everyone can tell already, did not. And you spent so much time thinking about it and trying to figure out why and how anyone could like it.
Yes.
Did you come to any conclusions?
I did. And so here's the thing. The movie starts off with a prologue that you looked at me and you were like, well, this is really bad.
Yeah. I, from the start, was kind of out. I didn't like the beginning. I thought that it seemed almost like really bad writing. Bad. Yes. I wasn't connected to it. I wasn't into it.
You didn't even finish
I went to bed.
You went to bed. And then I watched it. I was more unhappy that I watched the whole thing. But here's the thing about it is I am not a James Wan fan. I've watched all of his films, every single one of them, a lot of them in the theaters. I'll continue to do so. I'm always interested in what he's doing, but his style has never been...
It's not for you.
It's not for me. Whenever there's a real reveal of the monster, I'm like, that's from the Spirit Halloween store. It's like, it seems really cheesy to me, but it really works for a lot of people. Sure. So what I learned from watching this is also he came out and said it was his purposeful throwback to bad 90s horror, I think is what he said. He didn't use the word bad, but cheesy.
I love all 90s horror.
I know, that's the thing, is even when you say that, it just doesn't work for me.
No.
So I just put it on myself to be like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to continue to support the people that make movies in the genre. So it's not
sure,
like...
and I think you'll still see movies that he makes.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
Just aren't going to be your faves, and you're just not going to recommend them to your buddies.
Right, but ultimately I feel like my opinion doesn't matter on it because I'm still giving my money. Sure. I'm still being like, keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
You just won't watch it again.
That movie? Never. Ever.
No. Same.
But that's okay. That's what 31 and 31 is for me. It's about exploration, and it's cool that we're getting new horror movies, and that's it. So that sounds good. Then go for it. Chances are you've already seen it.
Give it a go.
Moving on to something more my style is Ice Cream Man from 1995, directed by Norman Epstein. Children alert police to a mysterious ice cream vendor that blends human parts into their ice cream.
Yep. Good one.
Yep, starring Clint Howard.
So creepy, man.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do much.
He does. He doesn't have to do much, but he was extra creepy in this, for sure.
He's great. This is a film that I saw at my friend Devin's house. He had HBO. Mm-hmm. It feels like a movie that you would see at Devin's house on HBO. Yeah. The music is kind of this like plinky. I don't know. I love this quirky, strange film about an ice cream man who's just murdering children.
Just murdering children, but when they show all the ice cream and there's like all these different scenes where there's bugs and body parts and animal, all this stuff, he's clearly serving this ice cream with bugs and body parts in it to people, but no one ever gets sick. Like, no one barfs. No, I mean, he kills them, but if you served a child an ice cream cone full of human blood and cockroaches, wouldn't they just barf instantly?
Yeah, it's not a barfy film.
It's not a barfy film, but I would think if that was real life, there would be a lot of kid barf and then murder.
Yeah, our kid would just not eat the ice cream.
Not eat it, but these kids
ate the ice cream. This strawberry ice cream does not taste good. It tastes like balsamic vinegar and sea salt. That's when we took her to an artisanal ice cream store here in Portland.
Like, no,
she spit
this
it
is
back.
Not for me.
She spit it back on the spoon of the lady handing it to her, much to the horror of the lady, and it's one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, no kids did that. No kids spit that ice cream out.
A cop eats an eyeball out of ice cream in this movie, and he was fine with it.
Human eyeball.
Yeah.
Didn't puke.
No, he was fine with it. I give that one 4 scoops out of 5.
Great.
Yeah. Moving right along to House. House is listen to this. It's the story by Fred Decker from Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad. It's directed by Simon Miner from Friday the 13th 2 and 3, Warlock, H2O, and Lake Placid. Yeah. And produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who directed Friday the 13th, Deep Star 6, and The New Kids. That's a credible pedigree for a movie coming out that's just a horror haunted house kind of film.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. One of my favorites. A Vietnam vet moves into a house that has multiple spirits.
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
Yes. What'd you think of House?
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I would say that I don't really watch any war movies at all. That's not
this
my
is the
jam.
risk.
It really is this story of this man's life in fighting in this war, and he's sorting it out in this house. And so there is some kind of flashback and stuff like that, but I was into it the whole time. Yeah. And even though he's trying to write this book, and even though his agent says that nobody wants a war movie or anything like that, that is partly what this horror movie is. And I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was good. They did a great job. I love the different ghosts, or I would even almost call them demons rather than ghosts. I really loved them, especially the woman.
Yes.
The female demon. So good.
She's really good. I loved this movie when I was a kid, and I'm so excited to have the box set because now you can watch 2, 3, and 4 with me.
Oh, yeah. I signed on.
All right,
I liked this one. I said I'd watch them, so yep.
I'm so excited.
Into it.
I think this film is something that has humor. It's got dramatic themes, cool creature effects, closet that's like a portal or something. George Wendt is in there. I mean, that's enough to watch it right there.
Yeah, I was into it.
Next is The Witch That Came from the Sea. This one is one of the 72 films that the UK deemed a video nasty and banned in 1983. I don't recall who recommended this as a witch movie, but I have a major bone to pick with them. Even the box of the Blu-ray says it's about a lady who goes around cutting dudes' junk off, which sounds like a movie I would like, watch, and own. I would blind buy it, and I did. It does not say that this is really just an incest rape film between a dad and a daughter, and I'm a dad, and I have a daughter, and fuck this film. It's not good. I don't think people should watch it. It's a terrible suggestion for a witch film, and I take great umbrage with this being recommended to me.
I don't really think I have to say anything. I think you said it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, just move. Get it out of everyone's life.
Yeah. Do not watch this. Save your time for something of merit that has something to say that's not this. It's gross.
Yeah.
Like Silver Bullet from 1985, directed by Daniel Attias, I think. It's their first film shortly after became a master of television. Follows a boy in a wheelchair and the discovery of a werewolf.
Fun.
Also, Gary Busey has some questioning efforts with this child.
Gary Busey's so good.
Yeah, he's the real reason to watch this.
He is. Yeah, good, bad uncle.
Yes. Oh, man. I mean, just give the kid a motorcycle and say, go take off on the road. No instructions.
Nope. Here you go, kid.
Yeah.
It goes real fast.
It's so crazy.
This was a fun one. I don't remember if I saw this when I was younger, but I feel like I did because I remember the eye patch situation.
Yes. Yeah.
But I hadn't seen it in a long time for sure. And so it was really fun to revisit it.
Yeah, it looks great. This is like a sleepover movie for our generation.
Yeah.
You'd be staying at someone's house and they'd be like, we have this horror movie you could watch. And it's also got this guy that's on Teen Bop or whatever.
Yeah.
It's got one of the
Super
Corys
fun.
in it.
Good horror movie. Good werewolf movie.
Yeah. Next up is Night Teeth from 2021, directed by Adam Randall. It follows two vampires that hire a driver for a night on the town. This just hit Netflix during this October. What'd you think of Night Teeth?
I liked it. I thought it was fun. Oh, I always like a vampire movie. I like lady vampire movies too. I was into the music. I was into the fast pace. Because it's kind of like an action movie a little bit.
Yeah.
And a vampire movie in one.
It's got that very current neon blue and pink color scheme with some hip synth music, and I don't know how I can make myself sound any older right now. These are all things I like anyway. It just feels very current. Yeah. And it's totally fine.
Yep.
Moving right along, we have Curtains from 1983, directed by Richard Kupka. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's first film. 6 young actresses auditioning for a movie role at a remote mansion are targeted by a mysterious, masked murderer. I
semi-paid attention to this one, as I do sometimes, until we're introduced to the masked murderer.
Oh, yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's such a good, creepy scene, and it's fun. But the movie itself is very long for what it is. It takes a while to get into it.
It takes a little while. Yeah. It kind of builds up, but I feel like once you really see the mask, you're either sold or you're like, nah, I'm not gonna watch this movie. And for me, I'm like, why is that the mask? Yeah. And I love it.
If you're terrified of creepy masks and creepy dolls, then this movie will creep you out, so you should watch it. And I know for some people that's what's terrifying to them, but for me, I was kind of like,
Well, one great thing that came out of this movie is we started our conversation once again about Big Girl.
Oh, yeah.
And for
It brought Big
listeners
Girl back into our lives.
who don't know about it, I even posted a thread on Twitter and people were like, that's an amazing story. So my parents were taking our daughter to us one day, and the neighbors were having a garage sale, and our daughter walked up to a doll that was roughly her size, a little bit taller than her, actually.
Than her, yeah.
And she looked at it, 'cause she didn't speak yet, and they were like, well, she's got to have it. And so these people just gave my parents the doll, did not charge her, or them. You can't charge a child, they wouldn't have money. And she brought it home, and she eventually called it Big Girl, and the only way she could carry Big Girl around the house was by putting both hands on its throat and lifting it slightly up and dragging this larger body around. And we would walk through the house and it would just be standing in corners. We'd be like, oh, because it was just like slightly taller than our daughter. So it was very unnerving to have around the home. And eventually she decided it had a voice. And the voice that Big Girl had was so unnerving because it was, without her even seeing horror movies, she'd be like, Big Girl wants food. And you're like, oh, God, why? This has to get out of here. And so we got it out of there.
We did, but also, the doll didn't have any clothes.
Yeah, it was a dirty old naked doll.
It was dirty.
Yeah.
Somebody had given it a haircut.
It was missing a chunk of its hair.
It was so, and it had those eyes that open and shut, you know,
Yeah.
but it was broken.
And some of its body parts were different colors.
Yeah, like they had
Frankenstein something.
lost an arm and replaced it with a different doll or something.
Yeah.
It was super creepy. And your mom is the one who brought it home in the car. And knowing you and that you have every creepy horror movie, and when she did it, I was like, how could you not understand that this is not the right house for this?
Yeah. Did you not see Dolls or any of the other?
This is how people die.
Yeah. It was very unnerving for me.
Yeah. So we left Big Girl in a box on the curb.
That's right.
Someone did take her.
She stayed 4 days out there.
Yeah,
on the
it
curb.
took a while.
We had to drive a different way leaving the house so our daughter wouldn't see. And she, little spoiler for people that don't have kids, but when they're really young, they don't remember things for very long.
Yeah, she forgot about it. She forgot sure.
Real
It wasn't
quick.
a big deal.
No, it wasn't. My favorite thing was that JL said that he drove by the house to try to get it so he could put it in the woods behind our new home.
That would have really been the prank of the century because it definitely would have freaked us out.
It would have been amazing. Yeah. But anyway, curtains are recommended. Moving right on to probably my favorite viewing that we did this October was our friends Keith and Aaron came over, both previous guests of the podcast, and they wanted to watch a horror film. They wanted something that wasn't too scary, wasn't too gory, that didn't involve like hauntings or something like that. So I chose Psycho Gorman from 2020, directed by Steven Kostansky. He's an extremely talented special makeup effects artist, writer, cinematographer, animator, and director. The synopsis: after unearthing a gem that controls an evil monster looking to destroy the universe, a young girl and her brother use it to make him do their bidding. And this played so well. There was so much laughter and so fun. It ended and I just felt high from laughing so much and sharing this film with everybody.
Yeah, it was definitely a good pick for sure. Because it's hard when you're in the middle of watching all these horror movies and then someone's like, well, I want to watch a horror movie, but not really.
Yeah.
Which is how Erin is. She wants to have fun, but she gets scared really easily.
Yeah.
So you picked the right one. It was fun. It is very gory,
it is super
but in
gory.
a really fun way.
Yeah.
I loved all of the characters.
It's written so hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so fun. And I even love that there was this period of time, I don't know if it's necessarily 90s, where if there is a band in the movie, they have a song and it becomes part of the movie and part of, you know. And so I loved that that was brought back where the kids have their own band. And I just thought it was so fun. I love the little girl, the main character.
Yeah, she's excellent.
There was pieces of her that really reminded me of our own child.
Yes.
Only the fun things, not the mean things. I thought it was great. I would recommend it. I love when special effects are real things and not digital. And so that had me right away because they're all so good.
Yeah, all the practical effects are super fun. And it's just so creative, all the different layers of everything. And it just keeps getting wilder and more fun. And it even ending with this crescendo of music that's actually about Psycho Goreman.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, highly recommended that. If you haven't seen it or you've been on the fence, and just put it on. It's super fun.
Well, and I am not a person who quotes movies or says things from movies later on, mostly because I don't remember what people say. But this one, I find myself still saying things to you from it, and of course you know what I'm referencing, but no one else would.
Yeah, you said something was the heckin' best the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's listening. I feel so heard. Excellent. Moving on to The Night House from 2021, directed by David Bruckner, who did The Ritual, The Signal, and the new Hellraiser reboot. A woman mourning her husband's death is haunted and challenged by dreams, and perhaps more. Thoughts on The Night House?
I really liked this one because I didn't totally understand what was happening. And for me, that's good because sometimes I can figure movies out right away and then I'm not surprised.
You're super good at it, too.
Well, I'm not sure if it's just because I read a lot of books and I read a lot of like psychological thrillers and stuff. So usually it kind of takes a lot for me to not know what is going to happen or what the twist is going to be. And in this one, I really didn't know what was happening. And of course, it's because it was hard to know what it was going to be because it plays out in a strange way. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But, but I will say that I followed along with the story without knowing what was going to happen. And I liked that.
I think it's beautifully shot.
Yeah.
The cinematography is incredible. And I think the pacing is really excellent. It's not slow. It constantly has little things happening where you're like, oh, it's this kind of movie. Or wait, no, it's about this. Or wait, why is this happening?
Yeah.
And then when they give you the answers and the reveals, it's not something that you were like, oh, come on. Like, you're just like, what? It ends and I was just like, what a fun ride. It was so well put together. I think it says poignant things. And so I don't want to spoil anything as it is brand new, but I was pleasantly surprised.
And the whole thing is, it is beautiful. It's a good watch, for sure.
I agree. Which brings us to Titane. This is another 2021, directed by Julia Ducournau, I think. I could be ruining that name. I apologize. Who directed Raw. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a father is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. Titane, a metal highly resistant to heat and corrosion with high tensile strength alloys. That's the definition of Titane. I included that.
Why? I'm not sure.
Because probably I was like, what does that mean?
Okay, so when I said that sometimes things that freak people out might be dolls or masks, not me. For me, body horror, it gives me nightmares. I can't always,
really got you with the thing.
I can't always have conversations about surgery or blood. I get really sweaty. It just sticks in my brain. You know, originally in my life, I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and I realized right away that I couldn't deal with body, blood stuff. I just can't. I thought I could. I can't.
It's actually how you left the program, is you're like, I can't deal with all this body blood stuff. It's in the body, all of that?
I'm gonna pass out with you just talking to me about it. I get really sweaty. Like, I don't know, but that's just how I am. And so this movie was very horrific for me to watch. Lots of parts of it were cringy. I got really cringy for sure. It's a definite body horror movie.
I love a movie where when we're watching it, I have to stick my arms out in different directions and shake my hands because I'm so nervous about what's happening. I won't look away.
Yeah,
because I'm on the ride.
Yeah.
But I'm also incredibly uncomfortable with what's going to happen. And this movie has some scenes like that. And it makes my heart beat super fast. I get all like, ooh, sometimes maybe sweaty a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Definitely felt those things.
Yeah. And even this movie does one thing that I really love that we see every once in a while in films where you see them about to do the thing that you really don't want them to do to themselves.
And you and I will look at each other and I'll be like, oh no.
We'll even say it. We'll be like, oh no, oh no. And then when they do it, we just are like, oh, like super loud.
Yes,
yeah.
That happened quite a few times.
Yeah, it's also a movie that I feel like I can picture all of it. Like it hasn't left my brain. And there's something about it. I don't know who I could recommend it to, but Titane.
Anybody who wants to see a body horror movie.
There you go. Anyone that loves cars. Like really loves them.
If you love cars.
Yeah, I don't even drive and I liked this movie. 5 stars. Moving on to a very similar film, Razorback from 1984, directed by Russell McKay, who I absolutely love as a director. Did Highlander 1 and 2, Ricochet, Resurrection, which I think Vinegar Syndrome just put out. It's a killer boar movie, and it's absolutely beautiful. The cinematography in this film is so much better than any kind of killer boar movie. And I've seen them all. This is by far my favorite killer boar movie.
Are there really more than one?
You know, there's Boar. That's one that came out.
So there's two? It's your favorite of the two?
I mean, there's a couple other ones. There's another one I just watched, which... what was that called? Now you put me on the spot.
Nah, it's okay.
I'll make a list on Letterboxd, people. Just right next to my alligator crocodile films, which is up to like 23, I think.
It's one of your favorite categories.
It is. Look at them all back there. Any thoughts on Boar? It wasn't boring.
It wasn't boring, but if I lived there, I would just move.
Yeah, sure.
Like, why do those people live there?
I mean, it runs through someone's house.
It takes someone's house
It's
and
true.
pulls it across the desert.
Yes. It's a big boar, people.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
very big boar.
Yeah. They shoot it really well, though. I think it's, as I said, the cinematography, but I feel like the way they shoot the actual creature, because it is a monstrous, giant boar surrounded by actual boars.
Yeah.
So, they have to make some very clever shots so that you aren't like, all right, this is silly.
Yeah, and it was fun. It's like a dirty Outback movie.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Something that might fit in right along with it is Lamb from 2021, directed by Vladimir Johansson. First feature, but has done a lot of work in special effects. And I wrote, the synopsis is, a couple have a kid. Ew. Another name for a baby sheep.
Good one.
Thank you.
I remember the beginning of this movie.
The part without the baby?
No, with the baby.
Okay.
But then I don't know what happens after that.
Oh.
Did I finish it?
You did.
I did.
You were right next to me because every time it showed that baby sheep head on a kid's body,
Yeah.
I just chuckled. I couldn't help it every time.
That was the thing. It was fun and weird and not what I was expecting.
Yeah, even when they're creating tension, they would just cut to the sheep in the sweater, and I'd be like, oh my God. I couldn't help it.
With his little kid legs.
I just love it. Anytime he's walking along, bopping his little sheep head, I was just like, you could make this movie twice as long. Make this a 7-hour episode on Netflix, because I would watch it do anything. Trying to make a sandwich with his little sheep hands.
I think that's the only thing my brain held on to, because I don't know what else happens.
Something big happens, but I'm not going to reveal that here.
I can only picture the little kid teetling around in his, galoshes.
Yeah. That's all that happens until something stops all of that from happening.
Okay, I'll have to revisit it, but people should see this.
People should see Lamb, for sure. It's not in English. The performances are fantastic. Naomi Rapace is excellent. It's a 3-person cast, not counting the baby sheep. There's a lot of sheep acting, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
The one sheep, I'm not, no plot points here, but there's one sheep that plays an important role, and I feel like you could see its emotions or something. I was like, am I into sheep acting? Is this what I'm into now? Sometimes you learn something about yourself.
Yeah, you're into sheeps.
No. Let's not put that out there. But I'm rooting for sheep actors.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
I hope they unionize, get the respect they deserve. Which takes us to Stage Fright from 1987, directed by Michelle Seovi. Did The Sect and The Church. Murders take place at a theater during pre-production. Don't worry, I'll not tell you the killer. I may have added that.
That's your description. That's not how they describe the movie.
Who else would say that?
This movie was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anytime that there's a giant owl head and
Yes.
interpretive dancing and a saxophone.
Okay, so here's the thing. You're not a fan of the Italian horror films.
Mm-mm.
So this is one of those, but it's also very much its own thing. So there's a lot of people that love those but don't like Stage Fright. But I was like, if we can get to the part where he jumps out on stage and starts doing the dancing with the owl head on, I was like, Sarah will be into it. And the second that part happened, you were like, how have I not seen this? It's so good.
It's really good. Really good. Really fun.
It's very fun. Okay, Stage Fright gets the thumbs up. I love it. That's wonderful. Next is Just Before Dawn from 1981, directed by Jeff Lieberman, who did Remote Control, Squirm, Satan's Little Helper. Shot in Silver Falls, Oregon. It's about kids stuck in a forest, and there's a killer.
Yeah.
Bum, bum,
Da,
bum.
da, da. Well, right away when it started, I fell asleep. I was just so comfortable. It felt like it was in the woods where I grew up. And then later on, I was like, Dirk, was that filmed in Oregon? And it was. And we
Yes.
figured out it was filmed in Silverton. So it made a lot of sense of where it was. Sometimes I'm just tired.
Sure.
It doesn't have anything to do with the movie.
No, I will say this movie is excellently shot. It's a slasher that takes place before a lot of slashers. Some people call it a proto-slasher, but it is way better made than I expected it all, for sure. All the shots with the rope bridge and the water. It's very cool. It's got a neat reveal situation that happens in it. It's really wonderful. But the best part is you fell asleep just before dawn, and you woke up in Dead Alive 1992, directed by Peter Jackson. A young man's mother is bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey. She gets sick and dies, at which time she comes back to life, killing and eating dogs, nurses, friends, and neighbors. You woke up to the climax of Dead Alive.
Yeah, it seemed fun, extra bloody.
Yes.
Like maybe the bloodiest scene I've seen ever, I would
Yeah,
say.
It's touted as one of the
So
goriest
if
of all
that's
time.
what you're looking for, watch it for sure.
Yeah.
Again, good animatronics when
Yes,
you have like
yeah,
big,
puppetry and stuff.
puppetry.
Mhm.
That stuff is always really fun for
I
me, and I
love
think
it.
because we grew up as kids with not just Sesame Street, but then moving into Fraggles and stuff like that. All of that stuff is part of our childhood, and so
Yeah.
then I think it makes sense for people of our age to then have that be part of horror. Is like all the
Sure.
things that we identified with as kids, then to have it be scary makes sense to us. And so I thought that was a lot of fun to have
Yeah.
those big creepy puppets.
Same director did a movie called Meet the Feebles. That's
Right.
basically, did you remember seeing that?
I remember seeing the posters.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's like a R-rated gross version of
Yeah.
Sesame Street characters. They're all
Sure.
puppets shooting heroin and getting syphilis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw it, but I remember
You would
it
hate
being a thing. Yeah.
But if you saw it in the 90s, you'd be like, okay, it's a thing. But now you would be like, this is not my thing.
Oh, okay.
Which, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
He now makes the Lord of the Rings movies and stuff like that. So there you go.
Mm.
Which brings us to Phantasm 2 from 1988, directed by Don Coscarelli, one of my faves. Years after surviving his encounter with the sinister tall man, played by Angus Scrimm, Mike Pearson, James LaGrosse, now a mental patient, still has nightmares about the evil, gaunt mortician. Upon being released from the institution, Mike and his friend Reggie, played by Reggie Bannister, set out to track down the tall man.
You love Phantasm.
I love Phantasm!
So, I mean, I'm in because you're in.
Yeah, I wanted to watch this one this year because I got this box set and it had some scenes that they had put back into the film. Some
Mhm.
original stuff that was cut. For the first time, the movie was complete as far as Don Coscarelli was concerned.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't wait to share two of the ball murders that happen, which sounds
Yeah.
dirtier than I intend, but one of the flying spheres, one scene with the priest, and another scene with one of the, I don't know what those guys are, the lackeys to the tall man. But it made me super happy to get to share it with you. I love Phantasm too.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a great time. I love that you right away were like, this wasn't in the original one.
Yeah.
You get so excited.
I get excited.
Yeah, I'm there for you.
Cool.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Which brings us to Fade to Black from 1980, directed by Vernon Zimmerman, who wrote Teen Witch. Eric Binford is a lonely movie buff who struggles to find his place in the world. The rejection by a Marilyn Monroe lookalike who embodies his obsession sends him on a killing spree during which he transforms himself into a classic film character, or multiple characters, actually. I'm just going to say I think this might have been the low point for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a bunch of classic movie references that you instantly were like, I don't care about this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seems right. It didn't grab me.
Didn't do it.
No.
Didn't do it. Which is fine. I really enjoy it, but I do know a lot of what they're talking about and referencing. So I feel like you do kind of need that to pave the way somewhat until it gets to the murders. And even then, if it's like you don't care who James Cagney or something is, that is...
I mean, I knew who the people were. I didn't like him as the lead, as the main character. I guess the point is that, yeah, he's probably someone who's supposed to be creepy,
Mm-hmm.
but
What if it was Crispin Glover?
I would probably feel the same way.
Oh,
I
wow.
just,
Okay.
Just didn't do it for me.
Okay, that's fair. It's no Nightmare Sisters from the previous year where you asked me if it was the worst movie I'd ever seen before.
Yeah, worst acting for sure. I didn't think necessarily this was bad acting. It's just not an interest point for me.
Yeah.
To have creepy white man who just treats people badly.
Yeah.
That's not how I want to spend my time.
Hey, that's an important thing. That's the point of even having the conversations about the recaps, since we don't usually talk about personal tastes on this podcast. It's just important to bring up all the different aspects of why films might not be for you. Oh, this isn't a thing for me is a very different thing than saying this movie sucks or whatever. You know, it's not being diminutive towards the film or the people that worked on it. It's just not everyone's going to like everything.
And that's the part. I think that everybody has different stuff that, especially we're just talking about October and scares and what makes us feel scared and what makes us grossed out. And I think that either it does or doesn't. So it's going to click different for different people. But yeah, so this one I just wasn't even very interested in. Yeah.
Which brings us to the last film, which is one you didn't see, but it's called The Deep House from 2021, directed by Alexander Bustillo and Julian Maury, who did Livid, Among the Living, and one of my favorite watches of all time with you, Inside. A couple head to a lake to check out a house at the bottom of the lake, and maybe it's haunted. It's beautifully shot. It had just come out, so I had to see it. It's super simple in its premise, and I see people really going after films like this where they go, oh, there's not a lot going on. But I don't think every movie has to be 2 hours and 40 minutes long and have all these backstories and all this stuff. It's great to have a film where it's just two people going to a certain place, having things happen, and hopefully they live or not. And the way that they explain this with the two people is they're making something for a YouTube channel. So they have their own GoPro cameras. They also have a drone, but it's not a found footage movie. Mm-hmm. So you have 4 different points of view that they're going to be switching back and forth between as filmmakers to tell the story, which as person watching it leaves you constantly shifting your weight to be like, okay, this is a drone, or oh, this is coming at her. And I had the headphones on that are noise canceling and super loud, so the jump scares were awesome. It really worked. When we saw Crawl in the theater, and it was like a tree cracking or something, and we were like, whoa, like, you know, it just like, it really gets you and it makes it super fun. I think if you just casually watch this at home, you're probably going to not be into it. You won't be focused on it. If you have your laptop out, it's going to totally relieve the tension. At one point I looked at my phone and I felt that happening, and I just put my phone down. I think if you just go for the ride, it's totally worth it. All the underwater cinematography does feel like spooky and creepy. So yeah, I highly recommend people check it out, The Deep House. I also like these filmmakers. They did do a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I didn't enjoy, but Among the Living you can find on Shudder now, and that was the big naked man that was like a killer, and one part he like shoves his foot into someone's mouth. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. Well, at the time you were like, ugh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like that.
It was gross. But Inside was an amazing watch when we watched that. And that was the one where you punched me in the arm and swore at me.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's that body horror stuff. It gets me.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
That lady's going to steal that baby.
Yeah, she sure does.
Oh, my goodness. Woo! Well, that's the recap. That's everything we watched in this last October. Hopefully there's some hits in there for you for next year, or some things that you really enjoyed. We would love to know what films you watched this October that you really liked. Any first-time watches, you can find us on Twitter or Instagram at VHUS_podcast. I would love to hear what spooked you, what scared you, what surprised you. I don't need to know what you didn't like. There's probably a lot out there. Don't tell me that you loved Malignant, because I'm not trying to take anything from the movie that you love. I'm very happy that you have it. Dress up for it as Halloween. Knock your socks off. It's wonderful, right?
Yep.
All right, well, the next time you hear our two voices, it'll be season 9 of VHS Podcast. We'll have 8 new episodes, 8 different professions, talking about 8 different films. So until next time, I'm Dirk Marshall. This is
Sarah Marshall.
There it is. I didn't write this part down. We're shooting off the cuff, as people say in sports.
All right.
That's what they say. Until next time, this has been VHS. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, bye everybody.